Even the microphone is on? How's that? No, a little more? A little more? Okay. It's a little bit too, no, a little more. Okay, that's good. That's good. So yesterday I mentioned that the diak that we made on Thursday, it's not emes, and that you can rikudim mechaylis, even though over here it says ein meraktin, and that there's an issa to dance on Shabbos, there's an issa to clap on Shabbos. And so there were those that wanted to say, yeah, but it only said those. I'm saying I also wanted to say that they want to say that maybe the only issur is about dancing. The only issur is about dancing on Shabbos, and only the issur is about merakting on Shabbos, but mechaylis on Shabbos, which is some type of a circle, that wouldn't be assur. And what's the diak? Because over here you see that it says ein meraktin, and it doesn't say ein mechaylis. You'll say, okay, maybe ein meraktin means ein meraktin and ein mechaylis, but you find in other places not like that. You find to be said in Sfir Saimer, you find in the lachas of the 9 days. So what does it say there? It says ein meraktin. It says not to be merakid, merikudim umechaylis. So over here also the Shulchan Aruch should have said that the Gemara should have, the Mishnah should have said not to be merakid and not to be making mechaylis. And so there was a diak that maybe you're not allowed to do rikud, but mechaylis would be mutter. It'd be mutter. Maisa. And the other day I said, and on Thursday I said, it's kavaldik and meduyak. And over here it never says anywhere in this issur not to do rikudim and not to do mechaylis. And that was the diak. And yesterday I showed that I don't believe so much in the diak. We showed yesterday that the diak is it's a little bit sasim, but and I explained that in Sfir Saimer over there, like the lashon in the Ber Hativ that the Olam saw in Tav Tzadi Gimel over there. When you looked in the Ber Hativ, the lashon was something more like don't make a matziv. So not to have an avart with smachis. That sharmine smachis kigayin like rikudim mechaylas. It was just like an example of not making a matziv, But so I don't know how strong the diak was. And Maisa yesterday, Rabbi Bergman showed me that it's not only that the diak is wrong, the diak is a dreadful tayas. The diak is a tayas. Now, if somebody wants to come along and say, on his own that maybe walking around in a circle is mutter, so then he could say, but to say it's a diak, it's a dreadful tayas. Because you look inside the Bir Halacha over here, and the Bir Halacha over here is a very famous Bir Halacha. The Bir Halacha brings over here from the Sefer, who is this? Who's he bringing from? He brings from Rabbi Kiva Eger that was Meramis, La'ayin, in the Sefer Zichron Yosef. Yesterday I said that, you have to Ayin Sham if the Talmud Chacham tells you to Ayin Sham. Over here, the Chofetz Chaim is teaching you something more. Not only if he tells you Ayin Sham, do you have to Ayin Sham, but even if he's Meramis to Ayin Sham, you have to Ayin Sham. So Rabbi Kiva Eger is Meramis to Ayin Sham, so the Bir Halacha didn't only Ayin Sham, he brings down the whole entire Lashon over here. So he brings down this Lashon from the Zichron Yosef. Right? The Zichron Yosef over here, he brings this lashon where he talks about these people. They had these mixed dances, and there was like terrible thing. So the Bir Halacha screams over here. It's one of the places the Bir Halacha mamish. He screams. Gehenna will end, and they'll still be there. Mamish screaming and screaming and screaming. But the Bir Halacha, he starts out. Why is he bringing it over here in Siman Shin Lamed Tes? So he says it's a terrible thing. The dance on Shabbos, b'shat nefesh. Not only the Chil Yontif, because I guess they did on Yontif. Chil Yontif, what are they doing on Yontif? Basias, Rikudim, Umachailas. Over here, no, thank you, Rabbi Bergman. I waited till now to see it inside. But he says, over here, they're doing a terrible thing. They're doing Rikudim, Umachailas. So I told you there's a diak that nobody over here mentions in the Isser of Ein Meraktin, that not to do Rikudim and Machailas. So now you see the diak is incorrect. Because you see over here, it's clear that when they spoke about this Isser of Rikudim, they say not to do Rikudim, Mechaylis. So then in all the other places where it says not to do Rikud on Shabbos, it's Lav Dafka. It means Rikudim, Mechaylis. It's all included in the Isser of Rikudim. So therefore you see I'm sure Bar Dikazach. You see that the diak of Ein Meraktin, it's Nishkin diak. You see already that the Achrayim that were far, this is 300, 400 years ago, the Zichron Yosef. And the Zichron Yosef is writing that they're not allowed to do, they're doing a terrible crime of Rikudim and Mechaylis on Shabbos. So therefore, the Elamai, we said yesterday, a different heter. We said that maybe not a heter, but we explained yesterday, if you have a place that has a minig, so then, it sounds like you don't have to frown upon it. If it's b'makim mitzvah, you certainly shouldn't frown upon it. And even if it's shloi b'makim mitzvah, it sounds like, not to frown upon it. B'frat, they're not going to listen, but that seems to be the shkafa. Klape, I was asked here, a few people were asking, and what's the difference between that and just stam walking? If walking around is aser be'etzim, Medina de Gemara, to stam walk around. So what's the difference between walking around and dancing, if dancing means also to walk around, lefi those that aser, the Gemara and the Mishnah, whatever, without this new anhaga. So walking around in a circle. So someone asked, if walking around in a circle is also, what's the difference between walking around in a circle and stam walking? It's such a ridiculous question. My contract m'chayiv me to answer that question. It's a ridiculous question. The answer is like you see, there's a sefer, the Maharal Sins. I don't know how to pronounce his name. The Maharal Sins, you'd say, right? It's Sins. So there he writes the exact opposite, the fakir punkt, the pum fakir. He says, pum fakir. He says, what do you mean? He says, hey, avada, there's no makim. He says, when people are dancing, so then you understand that there's no makim to be, he writes mamish those words. There's no makim to be mechalik, he says, between stam walking around or dancing. Because he says, what's the isser? I mean, they're dancing. What do you want from these people? The isser is when they dance, because they're doing music and dance and whatever, they might come to be masakin and klei. So you don't know what the difference is between walking down the street and walking around in a circle. One's called dancing and one's not. I'm asking that it's not such an aggressive dance, but everybody understands that those people are dancing and these people are not. We laugh at that dancing. We say it's not really dancing. But what's the isser? The isser is not the dancing. The isser is the dancing is going to come the day a klei shir. The dancing is going to come the day a klei shir. So that's the ma'isa. That's the ma'isa. Come again? No. So now there's another thing. There were gedolim that on their own wanted to say that you could be makel to stop walk around, which is a big chiddush. It's a big chiddush. I don't know. Ladati, you shouldn't be saying on that. If you see people doing it, then say like the Yam Shloima, that they're not doing anything wrong. Somebody, one of the avid listeners of Rabbi Brownstein, he sent me I didn't get a chance to look it up inside, but he sent it to me that Rav Nevinsel said, mamish like we said. I mean, I said like he said, that the Maisa, this idea that the Hanach Lehem is not as aggressive, and it's not a Hanach Lehem of this like mutiv and that type of thing. Okay, again, is it at a site that this is what the Mishabura's kavan is? It's not bar, but one thing is bar. I don't know if I'm going to dance on Shabbos. If somebody is dancing on Shabbos, Matonish is arguing, he's not to say anything. And then, especially if it's a makkah mitzvah, it's doing like the taisvis. What do you want from them? And there's a minig that went back all the way to the time of the Yam Shloimo, all the way to the time of the Rabbi, all the way to the time of the taisvis, all the way to, this is something that's been going on for a very long time. So it's not a new religion, right? It's not a new religion. If it was a new religion, we could talk. But it's not a new religion. So leave him alone, especially if it's b'makkah mitzvah. Am I going to do it? Am I going to tell my children, we don't dance on Shabbos? Okay, so I'll bring up my children, like it says in the Mishnah, to Gemara, we don't dance on Shabbos. But I don't have to now go and try to figure out why we should walk around in circles. I still have the heter I mentioned the other day, Ben Hashmashis. What'd you say that we told it to a falcon? He liked it. What was it? I can't remember. What? Something with Falca, we said once, and he liked it. It was about Ben Hashmashis. So you have a heter of Shvus Ben Hashmashis. So like I said, you're in the yeshiva. Let's say you're a Rebbe in the yeshiva. I'm a Rebbe in the yeshiva. So I'm not going to dance with them during Kabbalah Shabbos. It's very schwer that they have the Rebbe not dance. So I'll go around. It's still Ben Hashmashis. You still have that heter, Shvus Ben Hashmashis. I wasn't Kabbalah Shabbos yet. It's just a moments before Mitzvah Shir. So we said also, Ramosha, at least it's again, you know me, I don't like so much these Ishmi fish stories. But they say from Ramosha that Ramosha, Taka, I said this over, that Ramosha danced around, right? Remember I said Ramosha in one of the camps, he danced around. So somebody sent me an email, he sent me a message that he heard it differently, not that Ramosha actually danced around, but that he told me a story. Should I tell you the story? He said that he heard a shir from Rabbi Felder from Lakewood, and that he said over this story. He said that he was sitting there with Ramosha, the Bacher, the counselor was sitting there with Ramosha, and he asked Ramosha, could you dance on Shabbos? So Ramosha said, no, you can't dance on Shabbos. It's a Mishnah, you can't dance on Shabbos. So he said, okay, so then I should tell everybody to stop dancing. He said, how could you tell everybody to stop dancing? The minig is everybody dances on Shabbos. So he said, so then we could dance. So he said, no, Avada Megunish, how could you dance on Shabbos? He went back and forth a few times. And then finally the Bacher realized, what was Ramosha was saying, that mamish exactly what went on in this room. So did Ramosha actually get up and dance? That's how the story maybe, that was the next story, So I don't know how exactly what went on over there. Ramosha inside the tshuva, like Rabbi Samuels is saying in the tshuva. Ramosha says, mamish kimat that. When you read the tshuva, now you understand what Ramosha is saying. Ramosha says, look, Medina, he starts out before Medina. Maybe a Baal Nefesh should be machmer, not dance. But Ladina, if you want to know what the halach is, you see they're makels. So what do you want? So I think it's clear. Is it clear now? I hope it's crystal clear. Okay, yes, sorry. Why not? Mishabura? No. Every word in the Mishabura, you have to sit Shiva Nakim on every drop of ink. Why not? For sure, and he held that it's enough of a sefer that he wants to bring. He didn't write in parentheses like a lot of times he does. Agav, why is he bringing in Mechailas? Who said anything about Mechailas? What do you mean? What?
Because that's what they did. Obviously, he said that what this was they couldn't do it. They didn't get us because the right after they couldn't.
It doesn't say. He says, that's an avera. The loy levada chilul yontiv be'asiyas rikudim u'mechaylas.
That's also
You should know, I could bring the police here, right? I'll bring the police, then you won't say things like, I'll bring the police, okay? I'll tell them you're saying that, they'll arrest you. They'll arrest you, right? I don't know. No, I don't want to, I don't know, to me, it's, you better deal with this, Rabbi Balon. You better deal with this later. Right? I'll bring police tomorrow if I have to. Right? Okay. Akapanim, I don't know. What we said, I think, is the Allah Lamai. He's all upset. You know why? Because Svardim, no heter at all, right? None at all. Don't forget. Nothing. Garnit. Yeah? Okay, let's go fight. I don't want this to get personal. Then it can get. Let me get. Now, like this. Now, so I thank you, Rabbi Bergman. Very nice. Mitzvah. Now, it's like this. What, let's go tachlis. What's a mitzvah? We have to figure out here. Yeah, everybody say. What's a mitzvah? We have to figure out here. There is some heter out there, which is a little bit higher level heter, that certainly people are much more saimich on the mishabura. It certainly seems to be a bit more, friendly about this minig, that people are doing things b'makom mitzvah. So let's try and figure this out. Now it's interesting. When there's the heter of makom mitzvah, or we'll call it simchas Torah, whatever this heter is, okay? Now on the table, we have two heterim, which are definitely on the table. One is simchas Torah, right? And one is lemaisa, the heter of something b'makom mitzvah. What goes into makom mitzvah, we'll see in a moment maybe. But there's definitely a heter on the table. Again, whether you're going to take that heter, it's a different story. What goes into that heter of b'makom mitzvah? I'm allowing you to clap. I'm allowing you to dance. Whatever, if you hold of that mitzvah, if it's your minig the mitzvah, or if it's simchas Torah. So now what else is included in that? To dance, to clap, to whatever, right? What about banging on the bima? There's that one guy at Simchas Torah. It's his job. He's the guy who bangs on. Imagine what his hand probably looks like after Simchas Torah. Right? So that guy. What about him? And what about and why stop there? Maybe we could bring in like an organ or a banjo, a harmonica. Why are we stopping there? Why are we stopping there? Once it's this minig, why don't we have to stop over there? Sorry. I'm sorry. The guy's davening from it. What? The chassin is banging. What about it? No, okay, I'm saying before that, again, what's called the mitzvah? So in these shtibelach and whatever, they consider that the Friday night davening is also called the mitzvah. I have a different question now. My question is, what is included in the heter of mitzvah? I know dancing is included, whatever your mitzvah is. If you're told that davening for the Amid is a mitzvah, so then let it be a mitzvah. That's not what I'm trying to talk about now. We'll get to that in a moment maybe. But if you hold the Sheva Brachas is a mitzvah, the Sheva Brachas is a mitzvah. A chasen is a mitzvah, no problem. All these things are a mitzvah. If you hold that Friday night davening is a mitzvah, gesintheit. Okay. Zmiris, if you hold is a mitzvah. Now my question is, so what is the heter though? Meaning the heter is dancing, the heter is clapping, the heter is, so now I have a question. So can I bring in a harmonica? How far does that to go? And it's the whole Isser. People think that there's an Isser to have musical instruments on Shabbos. Avada, there's no Isser. Mitzat the Torah, mitzat Chazal. It's this new Gzeira. This Gzeira. I don't mean Chazal, but I mean it's this new Gzeira. So now, once you have this heter of clapping and dancing, but that's something that has to really intrigue you. The same exact Isser of clapping and dancing is the same exact Isser of listening to a flute, of playing a guitar, right? Sorry? Again, in the Mishnah, it's the same Isser. Where are you getting that from? Doesn't say that in the Mishnah. No, absolutely not. The Mishnah says not like that. The Mishnah says, ain't rakdin, ain't this, ain't that, and you're not allowed to play an instrument. It's the same Mishnah. No, that's absolutely not true. The Gzeira is not atu, you're going to play a musical instrument. The Gzeira is atu, you're going to fix a musical instrument. What? Right? So there's no difference. It's the same Gzeira. Basically, if you play a flute, you're going to come to fix a flute. If you dance, you come to fix a flute. No, it's a murder gazach, because most people, no, an instrument, that's like fragnish, next thing you know, Reform rabbi, that's the next thing you know. No, but it's not true. You have to have the same hashkafa, the same exact attitude. Playing a musical instrument is the same exact isser as clapping and dancing. So now we just got a heter the last few days, somehow, somewhere, something, right? Did some kind of a heter out there for clapping and dancing, either makom mitzvah or for sure by simchas Torah, right? So there is definitely some heter over here on the books of a musical instrument, of clapping and dancing on Shabbos. So now let's go weiter a little bit more aggressive. If there's a heter of clapping and dancing on Shabbos, no, I just want you to appreciate this. If you know, until now, clapping and dancing like everybody does, but now you understand what the basis of the heter is. So the basis of the heter is either covered a Torah by Simchas Torah, or the basis of the heter is they have a Taisvis. That Taisvis says that we're not baki today in Tikkun Klei Shir and all these Zachen. Just a moment. But if we have a Taisvis says that we're not baki in the Asiyas Klei Shir, so that heter that Taisvis says, so now let's try and figure this out. Can I also apply it to instruments? Can I also apply it to instruments? That's our shayla. So the Maisa, there's a Taz in your day in Reish Pei Beis, in Zivkot and Beis. So he talks over there, he's talking about something that Mr. Hashem, we're going to talk about probably a little bit more tomorrow, about the bells. We're talking about bells today also for different, but the other bells, about the bells on the Sifrei Torah, and he talks about these bells on the Sifrei Torah, and he it's a whole discussion over there. They Vayhi B'Torah Roin in those days was mamish like who didn't you see? They would take out the Sefer Torah, and the bells would start clapping and knocking and hacking, and they would go back and forth and yummy, gavaldik and dancing. Yeah? So now everybody's bothered, the Taz and all the Achreinim, they're all, what's going to be? It's a musical instrument and everything, and they're all very bothered, and we have to see what exactly the heter is. We have to see what the heter is. But as a derech agov, not the derech agov, but the Taz in Yeridea, he says, I'll tell you one thing, there's definitely no heter of musical instruments on Shabbos. And nobody's going to help you over here. Taisus won't help you over here. And sorry, so, that's Hashem. We're going to get to Goyim, we'll get to everybody, right? But that's nothing's going to, let me give me a moment. At each interval, let me say something. Then Bez Hashem, you have over here, the Taz brings down that a bell, you could have heard a bell is not a musical instrument, okay, whatever. It's like a noisemaker, you could have heard, but he's taking on a bell is like a flute, is like a guitar, and the Taz says in Yeridea, that for sure there's no heter. You don't have a Taisis, so now we have a little bit of a limit. The Taz just told us that even though the Taisis gave us this incredible heter that Bisman Hazeh were baki and Taisis changed the ganze Welt. Taisis went against all of everything and all of Allah and everything. But Afal Pikein, there's no heter of a musical instrument Bisman Hazeh. Okay, that's a very important klal. In other words, when you read Taisvis, you might not know that, right? That's why I'm quoting from a Taz. When you read the Taisvis just says, why are people dancing and clapping today? And Taisvis says, because today they're not going to fix the musical instruments because they're not baki. Okay, so then let me extend that. If I have any brain, I'll extend that, right? Huadin, any musical instrument, the whole list of musical instruments is not out to electricity. The list of musical instruments is going to come to fix them. And that's like the Taz Nishtazai. It's like the Taz that once you have this gzeira of not listening to musical instruments, it doesn't matter that Bisman Hazeh we're not baki. How kind is the Taz? Okay, why is this okay? And the Maisa, you see this because in Shin Lamed Tes, this is where the Ramah talks. In Shin Lamed Tes, the Ramah talks, not in Shin Lamed Ches. In Shin Lamed Tes, he brings down this clapping and dancing and everything on Shabbos. Over here, bring up the Ramah. The Ramah starts talking over here about this wonderful minig and that today we're not baki and everything. In Shin Lamed Ches, there's no Ramah. There's a remez in the Ramah. But in Shin Lamed Ches, it says about Hashmas Koil and it talks about Klei Shir, right? Hashmas Koil b'Klei Shir Aser. Over here, there's no Ramah. Why doesn't the Ramah say, but today we're not baki in how to make musical instruments, so therefore you're allowed to play a flute on Shabbos. So it's mefurish in the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah, it's mefurish that this whole anhaga of Taisvis, this whole deed, I'm just speaking out, that's why I'm shooting, but you could have made this mistake. There's one Achron, a great Achron, I don't want to say who, Yitaka made this mistake. But anyways, so Lamaisa, that's clear, that there was no minig of Taisvis by a Klei Shir. Okay, so now we have like this. We have, on the one side, there's no heter that Bisman Hazeh. That means even, so if you go into bells and you see them like, with harmonicas and flutes and drums and everything, so then you have to be moicha, you got to start mamish, you got to take down the ganze Chassidus. Right? If you come in there, just a moment, you heard me taking down Chassidus, you got excited, right? But 1 second, but Maisa, you got to come in there, you have to start screaming, they're being over in the Rabbanan, and you have to, the mamish, that's it, the end, right? But because that's a musical instrument, that there's no minik Taisus on that. So now there's a lot in between, right? So I know clapping and dancing, that Taisus is for sure talking about. And I know that on the other team, musical instruments for sure is not. Okay, so now what about taking, sometimes you see these chevra at the table, and they get like all into, with forks and spoons and dust. You got like, what else they got over there? Like a ladle, and you mamish all into it and dancing and clap. That's so what's the maisa? Is that an instrument or is that like your hand? Does anybody know? What? What? So he says, of course that should be aser. Of course that should be aser. Listen to Rabbi Yoshua. He says, of course that should be aser. Hooray, that's a kli. The comes to twice is vice the chayt that they ignore your hand, you're dancing. That's what he says. That's what he says. What? And they say, what? And you say, no, the other way. What? What? He says, you're going to come to be misakin a spoon? No, but I don't know how to misakin anything. I don't know anything. I don't know. Why not? I don't know. Maybe the spoon, maybe. I don't know. Wait, one second. You agree we need a raya? A raya. Anything you can say from svara, but what do you need svara for when you have rayas? No? What do you say? I think so. What? Yeah, the dancing is after you're going to come to make a kleshir. What? Okay, good. So you have a teammate now. So Rabbi Yoshua from my singer, they say it should be aser, right? Rabbi Rosenberg, which way? You're on the other team. Okay, so at least you need a raya. There's a fight already. What?
They use drums in Yerushalayim and Spira. They use drums as.
So what's a raya? Why? Why is that right?
It's not music. They use that as the no music.
Oh, at the chassan, you mean? No, that's a vada. It's for sure aser on Shabbos to play the drums. That's for sure. It's no shayla. You can't. That's a raya the other way. It's for sure. If it's sure, it's aser. There's no shayla in the world that's nechel and the aser share the drums. All right. So everybody say, let me bring it right. So there was the Shar Ephraim. The Shar Ephraim was the Zayda of the Chacham Tzvi. Yeah. The Shar Ephraim was the Zayda of the Chacham Tzvi. This wasn't the Zayda, this is the other side, not the Zayda that got beat up by the goylem that he made. Not that one. This is the other one. This is the Shar Ephraim. But this is the whole one with that story we spoke out once. With, I can't think of it. But anyways, the old no mice with the tachatah. Anyways, the Shar Ephraim, the Zayda, the Chacham Tzvi. So he has a tshuva where you ready for this? Everybody say he didn't suffice with answering music answering dancing and clapping on Shabbos, right? He says l'chayra on chalamoyed also. L'chayra chalamoyed also should be an issur of dancing and clapping. He says why? Hooray! Clapping and dancing is just a gzeira atu what? Atu you're going to masakin klei shir. In fact, there no on chalamoyed you're allowed to start making klei shirs and things like this. You're allowed to. So he says, so that's a big chiddush. It's a big chiddush. So Achreinim argue on this chiddush of the Shar Ephraim because they say it's gzeira l'gzeira. First of all, chalamoyed might be the rabbanon. Number one. Number two, if he fixes an instrument, most of the time when you fix an instrument, it's a ma'aseh hedyet. Okay, that's so pashut. It's not so pashut. Okay, what? Yeah, okay, but it's only allowed a ma'aseh hedyet, not a ma'aseh umen. Sorry. Okay, that's what he's coming to ask the Simchas Beit Shreiva. That's what he's coming to do. What? This is the Shar Ephraim. Rabbi, not talking about small people. Shar Ephraim was, he's a big man. I said the story. The Shar Ephraim's daughter was married to, that was the Chacham Tzvi's father, right? The Chacham Tzvi's, what? It was the aunt. It was, no. Anyways, she Lemaisa, who she married? I don't remember all the names, but Lemaisa, her husband, they thought was killed by the Rishayim in Tachvatah. They saw him get killed. They saw him. The Yimach Shemai hacked him in the head and killed him. That's what they saw. So they came back and they were made about him. They were made that he was nifter, and the Rebbe was murdered, and the Rebbe of Heschel mattered. The Rebbe of Heschel mattered the Saguna, mattered, and she wouldn't get married. And then a few months later, he walked back into the town. He just walked back, and they said the whole story. He had a whole nace, and because of that, the Rebbe of Heschel never passed in another Aguna Shiloh. He was scared to pass in a good child. Like I'm that the poskim of his door said, no, he did right. But the Shar Ephraim wanted her to get remarried. He wanted her also. Anyways, the Shar Ephraim was the Mechutin was the one that was beat up by the Goyim. That's the whole different Maisa. That was a good idea. Where does the Bir Alacha talk about the Goyim in the Sefer Mishnah Berurah? So in Siman Nun Hey, he talks about could you be mitzaref a Goyim to a minion. Some of us it's Maisim B'Kol Yoyim, but he brings down over there that from the Shar Ephraim, he brings down from the Rabbi Yisrael, the Chacham Tzvi's grandfather. If he made a goylem, it's not good. Mamish l'maisa. Anyways, so Tachlis, so the Shar Ephraim writes this. I'm not going into the Cholamoyed Chiddush because all the Achronim argue on it. So let's Dayenu the issur of clapping and dancing. But there's a Haggah over there from the son of the Mechaber. It was the uncle of the Chacham Tzvi. Over there, he has a Haggah. And in the Haggah, he writes, he says, no, what's my father talking about? And what about Lemaisa? Wait a minute. We have Taisvis. We have Taisvis, right? What Taisa say? Taisa says that today we're not bucking clay shear. So b'chlal, why is it my father being marish as ha'olam and telling people that even on Chol Hamoed Giveinlich they're not allowed to have musical instruments and this and that? All right, so we're not bucking clay shear. So he says Murdik Kazach, something that we mentioned in this room, and this is the Makor. He says there's a big chilik division making a clay shear and fixing a clay shear. He says the only answer of Taisvis is when you are making a clay shear. We're not bucking to make a clay shear. I'll explain this in a moment. But we're not bucking to make a clay shear. But we're bucking for sure to fix a clay shear. So he says, no, azay b'zay, mardik azach. The isser of the music is a little bit different than I said before. He says the isser of the musical instruments, of not playing a flute, of not playing a guitar and all these things in Shabbos, is that you're going to come to what? To come to fix the musical instrument. So that we're ganz bucking. That was the kasha we asked from the Aruch HaShulchan, if you remember. The Aruch HaShulchan asked the kasha. Well, what do you mean we're not bucking to fix a clay instrument? Everybody knows how. You know how to tune anyone who plays the piano knows how to tune a piano. Anyone who knows how to play a guitar knows how to, if a violin and the string snaps, you know how to take the string and to restring it. It's not such a meridik chachma to be able to do that. People know how to do it. You can't say we're not bucking that. To go and make an instrument, we're not bucking. So now everything is gevaldik. What did Taisus say? Taisus said we're not bucking to make an instrument. Mashen came to fix an instrument that we're bucky in. So that's what he says. He wants to say therefore in Chol Hamoed, we're going to ask their instruments because what's the yisr? When I'm playing an instrument, what am I going to come to do? I'm going to come to fix an instrument. Mashen came when I'm clapping and dancing. So now it's gevaldik. If I'm clapping and dancing, so what do I have to do? I'm going to fix something? I'm not fixing anything. I don't have anything. I'm clapping and dancing. What am I going to come to do? I'm going to come to make an instrument. Now I just want to explain this because the Olam has this hard. And what changed? Like what, they were such bigger chachamim back then, and they were, but they were bigger chachamim in the world of technology. I mean, I think the world got a little more technologically advanced. So I think it's the exact opposite. Because today, the musical instruments are, so advanced and whatever. So in those days, you want to take like an instrument, what's an instrument? It doesn't have to be something so, in Radin, so they didn't have a band in Radin. There's no band. So what do you do when you have to make a chasana? What? Sorry? No, so what they did was they had a band in the neighboring town, right? And it was called Lido in the neighboring town. They had a band. So they would come. One time there was a chasana and the band didn't show up. So they came to the Chavetz Chaim. The son of Chavetz Chaim came to the Chavetz Chaim. He says, "What do we do? The band didn't show up." So Chavetz Chaim said, "There's no breira. It's Simchas Chas Kala." And actually, in our siman, there's one of the Svardish Poiskim. I don't remember which one. But the Chavetz Chaim brings down the story that there was a Svardish town. That the queen died, I don't know, whatever, the princess died, whatever she was, some chicks, whatever. Anyways, she died, and they made a gzeira in the town, not a gzeira, like a din in the town that covered her death. No one's allowed to have musical instruments for the whole year. For this goita, so the Jews, they sent the Shiloh to one of the Svardish Gedolim, maybe like the Chidah, the Machzipah, somebody, one of the guys at Svardish Gedolim, and they asked him, what do we do about the wedding? So Chaim, whoever it was, the Svardish Gadol, he said, you can't get married in the town. You're not allowed to get married in town. It's an issur to get married in town. A chasana without music is an issur. You're not allowed to get married in town. They used to have to go out of the town to get married. It's a murdik is that. But anyways, so the Chavetz Chaim said, what could you do? You have to have music you have to have music. There's nothing to do. You can't have a wedding without music. So you have to get the yeshiva bachrim, and they have to go play. So they took like pots and like spoons and lefloch and dust and all types of stuff. And there they were, mamish dancing. And so then came the chassan and kala, and there's all the Radin boys choir. Imagine what it looked like. And there they were with the spoon and the pot, and there they are dancing. And so the Chavetz Chaim was with his son. He's looking out the window. They're looking at this, and they just started laughing. Chavetz Chaim laughed. So the Chavetz Chaim said, but Lamaisa, what does it make you think of? He asked his son. So his son didn't know. The Chavetz Chaim always had the Vayipin Azach. So he said, what does it make the Chavetz Chaim think of? He said, it makes me think of Olam HaEmes. So what are you thinking of? He says, look, in the Olam HaEmes, the person goes to the Olam HaEmes and he did a lot of Torah and he did a lot of mitzvahs. He also has some Averis and he wants to know, am I going to get in? Is everything going to be fine? So they look at you and they, right? Then they bring in the Yisurin. That's what the Chavetz Chaim saw. Then they bring in the Yisurin. And the Yisurin already, that's the music. So this chassan, it has everything, but what's it missing? It's missing the music. It's missing the music. It looks like it has everything. There's a band, there's a choir, there's everything, but it doesn't have the music. So that's in the Olam HaEmes, when a person has, Torah and mitzvahs, but he has no Yisurin. So he has everything, but still it's missing the music. That was what the Chavetz Chaim saw. That's what Chavetz Chaim saw. But anyways, so you see, you have to have music at a chasana. So Tachlis Geret, You can make a band with a plate and a spoon and a this and that. So that's the difference. In those days, 1,000 years ago or whatever, let's say in time of the Gemara, 2,000 years ago in the time of the Gemara, so when a person wanted to make an instrument, what did he do? He took a piece of wood, he poked in a hole and whatever. So he would be clapping and dancing. He said, you know what, I'll be much more, they knew these things. It was much simpler society. So Geshmak, let's just take a stick, put inside a hole and you have a flute, right? It was very simple. So they were more, your day how to do it, and it was more common that they would do it. It's more common that they would do it. What happened 1,000 years later? That wasn't an instrument. So we're not Bucky, says Taisvis, in the musical instruments of today. But again, now it's still Gevaldik. When it came to clapping and dancing, what was the Gzeira? You're going to come to do what? You're going to come to make an instrument. That we're not Bucky. Masha'en came when it comes to musical instruments themselves. What's the Isser? You're going to come to fix the musical instrument. And that we're talking Bucky. Now with this, everything's good. First of all, it's Miyashiv Derech HaShulchan's question. What's Bechlal Tais talking about? We're not Bucky in making a musical instrument. No, we're not Bucky in making a musical instrument, but we're not Bucky in fixing. That's right. We are Bucky in fixing a musical instrument. That wasn't what Tais was talking about. As I thought, this Haggah, I saw the Shalom Meshiv. Shalom Meshiv says the same thing. Shalom Meshiv has a tshuva there to the bad guys, the girls or whatever. And the Shalom Meshiv has a tshuva. They wanted to bring an organ into the shul. This is in the olden days when they still wanted to come to shul. Right? Now most of them are just either gay or, sorry? No, the shuls are just generally not open. They have buildings that have expensive property and things like that, right? And then eventually they turn into shuls. But anyways, first they turn into churches and then they turn into shuls, if anybody knows what's going on in the world. But so to make a long story short, so they wanted to put in an organ into the chapel. So they wrote all these tshuvas, these people, they wrote all these tshuvas. So what were their tshuvas about? So they wrote things like this. We should be able to have an organ. I did an isser of a Xeris clay shear and things like that. So they write, well, first of all, Rabbim, Midkriya Dodi, people, everyone, the Rabbim will remind each other, and the reform are very, very on top of being medactic in mitzvahs and things like that. Okay. Then also Rabbanim Zrizim Hain. There's lots of Rabbanim that we sit in the shul, and we'll see this, and we'll of course stop it if anybody, we'll tell him, no, go back to your seat and continue smoking your cigarette. We won't let him fix the organ. And then they had all types of others, and then write down some of their things. They have other ones. They have Ein Shvus B'Mikdash. They had. Anti-Semite. But then one of them, what they had was they said, and Bichlal, Taisvis, we're not Bucky anyways to fix a clay shear. Anyways, not Bucky how to fix the organ. So what happens if we bring in an organ? Someone's going to go and start fixing the organ. Nobody knows how to fix the organ. The Shalom Meshiv doesn't even know what to do himself. He said, a minute ago you have the Rabbin there. In the Rabbin, there's always going to be one person that knows how to fix it. Anyways, but he writes like this. The Shalom Meshiv says, on that taina, you didn't learn Taisvis. That's what he tells him. You didn't learn Taisvis. He says that Taisvis never said that we're not Bucky in fixing an organ. Yeah, we are. We're not a Bucky in fixing an organ. All Taisvis said is that we're not Bucky to make a clay shear. So beside that Gzeira never got any heter. The Gzeira of playing musical instruments, Atu, you're going to come to fix it. That we never have any heter. There's no Taisvis. So the Maisa, that's the longest. If that's the everyone's with me, right? It's Pasha. If that's the longest, what? Slow. That's it. I'm just telling you what it says in the Shalom Meshiv and what it says in the Go of the Sharfrai. But everyone's with me what I'm saying. So Maisa, if that's the longest, so then the Maisa, what's going to be now by a spoon? Now who's right? Now we have right. Now let's try and fix it. So who's right by the case of the spoon? When you're taking the spoon, you're hitting it on the table, and let's say you consider Zmiris to be a Makkah mitzvah. Or let's say you're at Kabbalah Shabbos, and at Kabbalah Shabbos, you consider dancing around Kabbalah Shabbos to be a mitzvah. So could you take, what are you going to take? There's no spoons in the shul. So you take, what are you going to take? What? One of the old people, one of their walking sticks, and start hitting the floor and tapping up and down, and right, and all these. So you're allowed to do that. So now let's try and figure this out, right? The fee what we just heard, it should be included in that, meaning in which team is it? Is it on the team of clapping and dancing, or is it on the team of an instrument? Now it's not just based on what we think. Now it's based tachlis. No, so what's Lamaisa? Which direction? Avada Pashit, it'll be mutter. There's no shot in the world. The whole entire idea is that Taisis was never makel when it came to a musical instrument, because that you'll come to fix.
But Mashenke, when I'm clapping and I'm dancing, I'm not going to come to make an instrument because I don't know how to make an instrument. No. So when a person has a spoon and a fork and he's clapping and hopping and doing all types of weird things, so what? So now what? He's going to come to where Bucky and what is Chazal afraid of? He's going to say this is ridiculous, and I'll go and make a normal instrument or something. But we're not Bucky in doing that. So it's that it should be mutter if you have the heter. If you have the heter, like let's say simplest Torah. So Simchas Torah, do you want to know? Could you bang with forks and spoons and everything? The feed this, it's mutter, whatever heter you have. And because actually Simchas Torah is not fair, because Simchas Torah we're really being simich more on the fact that it's covered Torah. So okay, Yesh Ladin maybe covered Torah, they only make on the things that was the minig. I don't know. Maybe you don't need a spoon and a fork for covered Torah. But if you go with that, let's say that more Chassidish Mahalich or Yam Shleima or that Mahalich, that the Malkim Mitzvah, they weren't, were they're soymich on taisvis, and even the Mishabur allows you to, certainly not be moicha, and allows the minig to continue. So now, in that minig, if they're at the zmiris and they have forks, and they have spoons and whatever, so then you're okay. You're okay. That's what comes out, and that's what I think it's pashut what I'm saying. L'chayr. I saw two things. One thing I saw is in the Piskei Tshuvos, he brings down a minchas alazar. Hilchos Shabbos and Aleph Chav Tes. That's a famous tshuva in this topic. Munkach is very busy with this topic, but so Maisa, he brings down not like I said. That the Piskei Tshuvos brings from the Hilchos Shabbos not like I said. Now he says, what are you allowed to do according to this minig? According to this minig, you're allowed to clap, you're allowed to dance, but you can't use spoons and forks and walking sticks and Zimmer frames and all types of other things. Because he said that's a kli, and that goes into the instrument. No, so already the Hilchos Shabbos was, he's already Chassidish. It's a little bit hard. You lose your cheshik to, give a kula to the Chassidim, that they're not taking, let's magit nemmin, but when the Chassidim alain, they're not taking it. So you sort of lose your cheshik. So I look it up inside the Hilchos Shabbos, and not sure. I don't know. Over there, he brings taisvis. And the taisvis, he says, is, like we said, it's about Masakin Klei Shir, and right, he brings this taisvis. And then he brings down, you should know the heter is not just Simchas Torah. He got to go with that type of malach, that Simchas Torah maybe is mutter. He says the heter is all mitzvahs. Okay, all mitzvahs. He goes there either out taisvis or he goes out covered of the mitzvah or something. He has some heter over there of clapping and dancing, right? And then he goes and he says this idea. This idea of taisvis, and he says, so taisvis says we're not bucky in fixing a klei shir. We are bucky, and he says, but we're not bucky in making a klei shir. We're not bucky to make a klei shir. So he says, so for shteitzach, that's not going to apply to a kli. Dainu, that's not going to apply to. He means what's a kli? He says we're bucky to fix. So he says you can't go and use a kli. That's his words there. We're bucky to fix. So he says he can't use a kli. Because we're bucky to fix. He says, but to make, we're not bucky. So that you could clap and dance. And then at the end of the Jew, he writes, but not with a kli. Okay? So what kli does he mean? What he means a fork and a spoon? Mamish not. He means an instrument. It's pashut. That's what it's coming to say. The Piskei Tshuvos understood the word kli is any kli. Is no shaykhs. You look inside the tshuva. It's not what he's saying the exact opposite. He says, you're not allowed to use a kli. What kli does he mean? He doesn't mean a fork and a spoon. He's first not saying that. He says, you're not allowed to go and use an instrument. It's the instrument he spoke about before. In the beginning, he calls it an instrument. He says, you're not allowed to use an instrument because that you're going to come to fix. So at the end, he says, when he fears Zayis in the tshuva, he says, so therefore, you're allowed to clap, you're allowed to dance, okay? Because that we're taka, we're not bucky, but don't use a kli. What kli does he mean? Like we said before. There's nothing in the Minchas Lazar not like this. In the Minchas Lazar, it's bar, he just means an instrument, but there's no shaila. It's the same. He Kimat speaks out the same lumdis that we spoke out. That's something that you're bucky in, like, fixing. So, okay, there's nothing to fix about a spoon and a fork. If you would want to actually get aggressive, you would have to go and make a whole thing, which that we're not bucky in. That's the l'chayr. Sorry? I didn't drink it, right? Yes, all right. Yeah. So we going from that? So you see that what? I said that's exactly what I was saying before. That you see in the olden days when they used to make a clay shear, it was a much more primitive clay shear, so they knew how to make it. Okay, I'm not sure what you mean. Maybe explain to me after. I'm not following. What? Right.
I don't know. What does it have to do with us? In the time of the Gemara, they knew how to make kalim. So ask me after. I'm not chatting good. I'll try to understand it after. The Maisa in the Salmas Chaim in the 195th Tshuva, they asked him, those that hold you're allowed to play with a fork and the music. Those that hold you're allowed to clap and dance. Is the heter even to a fork? And he says, yeah. And so that's definitely the psak halacha. Now, I must tell you what Rabbi Markowitz wants to ask over here is a kasha. It's a very good kasha. Everything I said today, l'ch'oira, is upgefrekt from the poiskim that we have here. Why? You can tell me? You want to say now? What? No, not because of that. Why? Because over here, the Ramah in Shin Lamed Ches, he talks about this unbelievable chassan over here, that they brought the goyim in to be maganagin, and they brought the goyim in to play the band and whatever, right? They bring in the goyim over there to be playing with the banjos at the chassan, at the Shever Brachas on Shabbos, whatever it was. So the yesh matirim to tell the guy. Comes again the Ramah, and the Ramah says, yeah, afilu to tell the guy to be misakin a klei shari at chas and kala. He says, if it's not for the chas and kala, then it's us. Then he writes, umiu bizman hazeh nagul hakol mitam sheizbayer. Nagul hakol mitam sheizbayer. Now look at the Mishabura. He writes like this. He writes, I think it's more first than Mogan Avram, but Mishabura is not as first, but 1 second. Is your base? Where is it? Here. Linyan Tipicharika, Parish. Came into Medina Yesharim that there are those that say, he's quoting a Magen Avram, right? Yeah. There are those that say, he writes like this. He writes, Bisman Hazeh Nogel Hakal, they were makel today on clapping and dancing. Why? Because Kivin to Medina, since Medina Yesharim, some say, Dahavale Lemishri Lanagin Bismaneda B'Klei. Some say we should even today be makel to play guitar. Why? De'ein anu b'kiyim basiyasan. Because we're not bucky in making the klei and lekel l'megzer shem yisakin. So l'chein, at least al yidei goy you could be makel. Why is it that we could be makel that a goy could play guitar on Shabbos? B'kai govna that is a simcha or whatever, right? Because there are those that hold even you could play guitar. That's against everything you just heard in the last 15 minutes. Everything you heard is not like that. The only thing I can tell you is that it's true. Maisa Shal Meishiv is big enough you could argue, and Shar Ephraim is big enough they could argue, etc. The only thing is though is that what we said is emes in the mitzias of the minig that came out. If you want to know, in the end of the day, the minig is that no one plays guitars and no one plays drums, and that's clear. All the Paiskim are saying. The Taz says that in your day, and that's clear in the Ramah. And that's clear even in the Mishabura. Nobody ever took on that because of this taisvis you could play with the klei shir. That's just a moment. Nobody ever said you could play klei shir, and yet everybody mikoyach this minig allowed you to clap and to dance. So the shtickle that we're saying explains why is it that the minig of Klal Yisrael became like this. That's all I'm coming to explain. It doesn't work in the etzim the way the Mishnah Berurah obviously is learning the Taisus, the Magen Avram is learning Taisus. It's not like we're saying. But if you want to know what's the pshat, if somebody asks what's the reason why the minig of Klal Yisrael today is that there's a lot of people that they consider something a mitzvah, they clap, they dance, but they'll never take out a guitar. The answer is like we said. The answer is the Shalom Meshiv, the answer is the Shar Ephraim, because they're bucky in fixing, so that they're not going to go and play, but they're not bucky in making, and therefore clapping, dancing, and in addition to that, forks and spoons and other cutlery and all that stuff will be mutter. Adkan is the Chayr Davar Pasha. Yeah, what you say? But that answers your guys' question. Yeah. Yeah. And therefore what? Oh, I have no idea how the Shar Ephraim is going to learn the Ramah. Yeah, that's what you're asking. Yeah, for sure. It's borrowed. There's no other way to learn the Magen Avram than the way the Magen Avram learned of here. And don't think the Shar Ephraim and the Shalom Meshiv are saying like me. They don't say this is the pshat in the minig. They learn this pshat into Taisus. Now you appreciate the Aruch HaShulchan. The Aruch HaShulchan said, what is Taisus talking about? That we're not bucky to fix a klei shir? We are bucky to fix a klei shir. This is the easiest answer in the world. Why didn't the Aruch HaShulchan just say this? It's the easiest answer in the world. The Teretz says, because it's l'chayr, everybody learned not like this. It's a pshat in Taisus. But that's his l'chayr. That's l'chayr. Now, yeah. I'm sorry? It says me first by a guy, right?
I understand, I'm saying, but first, by the case of a guy, right? So it was a musical instrument, and he's saying, why could we be make like that guy? It's also musical. Right? And again, also, I'm saying over here also, by the case of a guy, you see first, that's how they're learning, right? That they're saying, what's the reason why by a guy you can tell the guy to play the musical instrument? Because even the Jew can play a musical instrument. Then that's good. You bring another right. I'm saying it's bar that there's another mahalach than what I'm saying. I'm only explaining the meaning. Is it crystal clear before I go right? Okay. Sorry? It's a machlekes how to learn Taisus, but look, Rabbi said Shar Frian could fight with Ramah. He was only about 100 years after him. It's not. It's Ramah fighting how to learn Taisus. It's 100 years after. So they're fighting how to learn the Taisus. Yeah. What? The truth is, it's mamish murder. It's a shtickle pella. To not learn like the Shalom Meshiv is mamish pella. It's not a big pella. How the Ramah learn? What? That's what I'm saying. In those days, it was much more primitive. The guy took a stick, he put a string over there, and boom, right? That's how David killed Goliath. In those days, to make a machete was, to make a machine gun and all that. There's a guy, that reminds me. I forgot to mention about beatboxing, right? Or whatever it's called, box beating. I forgot, right? That's it. Remember. Those weird noises that the people make and everything. I forgot to mention that. I said, what comes out? You're allowed to do that on Shabbos. I mean, I don't know if you're allowed to do it on a Tuesday, right? But what? Why not? Because maybe that's why is it different than clapping on Shabbos, right? Elamai. So we saw that the Aruch HaShulchan was meko on the blowing or whistling with your finger, right? Because he said all it's doing is the mouth is making the noise, and the fingers are just what's his lashon there, being mesayeya that the noise should come out yafa. But the maisa is being done ayudei your mouth. That's his lashon there. I don't know. Is that the same thing as a beatboxer? Right? I don't know. What? I don't know. One second. They have these chevra that they go like this. I can't do it. At least in public, I can't. But they have these chevra that they mamish, they blow and they make it into a whole thing. And they, does anybody know how to do it? What? The noise is from the mouth? I thought they're doing a maisa. What? That's the word. It's not spitting?
Whistle?
Huh? Shlomi, you know how to do it? I thought you would. I don't know. Like a part of, there's nobody here that probably knows how, but. What? I mean, it's klachayad. No, but the guys that do it, they make a whole parnas out of it. But they have a whole CD. Like if you don't buy it, you're Russia, the Sphere CD. You're not because if you don't buy it. This is what you need for Sphere. But I don't know. I don't know. You think it's mutter? It's just being mesayeya.
You can do it without it.
What? So what's the difference? So why is this usher? Why is that usher? The hand is making noise. And that's why it's doing this. Oh, thank you. I feel like I'm at a. I feel like I have to cross the street. But one second. No, I'm saying. So when they do it with the finger, no, I'm asking when you do it with your mouth, then that's not going to be usher. But when they get the hand involved, the hand doesn't. Is that the same thing as the Aruch HaShulchan? He says that the fourth of the fingers is it makes the coil oily yafa, and that's what's going on here also, right? But why is that not usher? Why is that not a maisa? I can understand why the fingers isn't a maisa because it's just allowing the mouth. Here it's like a real maisa. You're doing with the finger up and down.
Why is it different than singing?
Sorry?
Same thing as singing.
That was back to the Aruch HaShulchan's kasha. The Aruch HaShulchan said, what's the difference between, he says, what's the chiddush of the Ramah? The Ramah says whistling is mutter on Shabbos, right? He says, what's the chiddush of the Ramah? You're allowed to sing. That's the kasha. So he answers, no, the chiddush is that you put your fingers in your mouth. And when you put your fingers in your mouth, you're doing maybe more. Kamash Malan, I mean, it's not just singing. Kamash Malan, it's really just a moment. Kamash Malan, it's the whistling, which is doing the noise. And the fingers are just like being Misayeya. So now, I don't know, is this just called Misayeya? So I have a cousin who is one of these singers on these AKA whatever things, whatever. So he called me last night. He asked me how come I didn't give a shiur against him every year in Sphere. So I told him Taka forgot. But Taka forgot. So I asked him, Taka, to tell me how. I wasn't going to talk about this, but he reminded me. But I asked him how. He's a firm believer. Now he admits that it's not his forte to be the the lead behemoth with the whole, matzah and noises and what. He said, but Kafi, the way he understands it, and he's a little bit more experienced than you guys, I think, right? You guys, just sitting and learning Kallus, and he's beating and boxing and doing all these things that have tremendous tailors. So Lemaisa, he seemed to say that the fingers are allowing, they're doing something. They're not just allowing he's doing a maisa. That's what he said. I don't understand this out of sight, but I don't understand what I'm saying. What? No, that's okay if it's hitting the vocal cords. The hand is hitting your vocal cord? Wait a minute, it goes like that? No, he was doing it with the mouth, like that. Oh, so he's hitting it, and that causes a vibration. I don't know. I just wonder if the Aruch HaShulchan never spoke about this. Probably if the Aruch HaShulchan would have heard about this, he would have died from a heart attack. But, I don't know. Okay, I don't know. Does anybody want to go into Chaim Kanievsky and ask this question and do it for him? I don't think we're going to get anybody that's going to be willing to go in. You'll go? Listen. What? Yeah. All right. Chamshi, you'll go in? Okay, I don't know. Look at this. I'm a little bit navoich, I'll be honest with you. Let's go weiter. So the Maisa. Sorry? Yeah. So it's like this. In Shin Lamed Ches, so let's go weiter. So that's kind of the Isser of Klei Shir, basically. That's a Klei Shir and the Isser of... so now, but there's another Isser over here. The Gemara brings down a machlekes. Are you still allowed to bang on Shabbos? Okay, till now we were talking about Klei Shir. The truth is now we're going back to the start of this again. But the Chazal talked... What time is it? The Chazal talked about the Nisr of Klei Shir. And then there's another Gemara in Eruvin, that discusses stam banging on Shabbos. So what's the halacha? Are you allowed to stam bang on Shabbos? Stam banging and make noise. So the Ramavia brings down that Aser, so the Ramah brings down that Aser lahakos b'Shabbos al adelos b'tabas kavua, that you're not allowed on Shabbos to use this door knocker, even though you're not doing it with a shear. Why? Because it's a kli miyuchad. Okay? And that's why the shamish is not allowed to use a kli miyuchad. He's not allowed to use a kli miyuchad, okay? And in Shin Lamed Tes, it says all these things, the kli miyuchad, that's what's aser. But to stam bang on Shabbos, stam bang and make a noise on Shabbos, that seems to be that's allowed. That the emphasis is a Shulchan Aruch at the end of Shin Lamed Ches. Shulchan Aruch talks about, where was that case over there? He was running after the, where is it? Ein seichik, no, not there. Where's the birds? Shin Lamed Tes, I made a mistake, sorry. Shin Lamed Tes? No, Shin Lamed Ches. Where'd it go? Here, see that Hamashamer Perois of his Rav. He's guarding his field, his vegetables, because of farm animals and livestock. Lo yis by kap. Can't start banging your hands. Start banging and clapping your hands up and down. The lo tap kap, you're not allowed to go like this. The lo yirakid, you're not even allowed to go like why? Gzeira, why? Just say it's also because you're not allowed to make noise on Shabbos. You're not allowed to be banging your hands like clapping. You're not allowed on Shabbos, right? No, the answer is you're allowed to clap on Shabbos. Says the Mishnah, no, because you're allowed to clap on Shabbos. You're allowed to bang on Shabbos. You're allowed to bang. You're allowed to knock on the door on Shabbos. All that's allowed. But here there's a special gzeira. If you're going to go and kick away the birds, we're afraid that you're going to take a stone and you're going to throw it at the stone. You're going to throw it at the bird. You're going to yizrik them, right? So the Mishnah says, interesting. And what's the problem if you do that? What's the problem? What? So Chaim Shmuel says, what do you mean? Why not say there's a not bigger problem, but a more prevalent problem? Muksa. But why was miyached the stone? That was the case. Doesn't sound like that, but okay. All right, but anyways, I knew you'd like that. What? Yeah, no, okay. I guess you're miyached. Okay, I don't know. I find it interesting, but anyways. What? Oh, really? In Shin Test, there's a whole story over there about the kid holding the stone. What? Why? What if so the nafkamina will be? What if you're in a place with Nashas Rabbim? I don't know. What if you're in a place with Nashas Rabbim? Allah Maisi, you're not in a place with Nashas Rabbim. What's it then? Are you allowed to start clapping? What? Okay, but what? And anyways, so the Ramah brings down over here this kula. The Bir Lacha says the grow is machmir. The goyim wouldn't on Shabbos knock on the door. Now forget the door knocker that we're going to talk about. The goyim wouldn't knock on the door. The emes is, this is a Gemara that brings down this Amanda Omer that holds you can't stop knock on Shabbos, right? And there was an Amoira. There's an Amoira that Taka, one time he came to the door and it was late at night and the door was locked. And the Yerushalmi brings down. So what's he going to do now? Bir Lacha brings the story. So what's he going to do now? He can't knock because he held of the sheet that he can't knock. Was it Ula maybe? One of the he couldn't knock. So what did he do? So he slept outside the whole night. He slept outside the whole night. Who knows? We don't know. Maybe it was very hot. I don't know. Maybe it was very cold. I don't know. The Baghdad, it was in Iraq, right? The Baghdad winters are very brutal. But he held you can't knock. The Stipler wouldn't knock on Shabbos. The Stipler wouldn't knock on Shabbos because he was chayshish for this gra. I always thought that I don't even have to mention this goyim, even though it's a goyim. But man, did anybody ever hear that you're not supposed, knock on Shabbos or clap? Let's say after there's a geschmack drasha and you want to clap, Shabbat brachas. I don't know, everyone's clapping. So I'm saying that Dayain of the Chumras, I the goyim is machmir. I figured you don't even have to. Then I saw the Maria Sad, he was the Talmud of the Neit Yehuda. In Aleph Ayin Dalet, he says, Avada, he brings the lashon there, Avada, a Bal Nefesh should be Machmir because the grow is Machmir. Mamish, like a Pashutim, like a Bal Nefesh is Machmir, I guess if you eat Chol Yisrael or whatever, So then you should also not knock on Shabbos. That's, okay, but I don't think the Velt is so Machmir. What? He was Machmir, whatever the guy was Machmir, I'm knocking, clapping. I said, the guy, why not? The guy is machmer making noise on Shabbos. He's machmer like that, mandomer. There's mandomer in the Gemara that holds it's not just klei shir. It's you're not allowed to make any noise on Shabbos. You can't be making you can't knock on the door on Shabbos. Right? Now sometimes, as I remember growing up, I remember one time one of my friends came to the door or something and he just like screamed out. So my mother said something, why can't you just knock? Right? I was always giving them chizik and to do right, whatever. Right? But now I'm going to go back. I'm going to tell her, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? He didn't want to knock on the door because he was machmir. He was machmir. Right? What about a shinoi? What about shinoi? So the Bir Lacha brings down over here that it's mutter with a shinoi. He says it has to be. Why? He makes a cheshbon. If you're allowed to even clap, which is a din of the Gemara mamish, according to everybody, you're not allowed to clap on Shabbos, but you're allowed to clap kalach hayad. So he says, so for sure you're allowed to. So what would be kalach hayad? Well, his elbow, his head, or somebody else's elbow, or somebody else's head, or whatever, right? Shoulder, like that. So that's what he says. The Bir Lacha says it's allowed. Kalach hayad. Grada, Maimer Musgar. Does anybody have a kash on the Bir Lacha? Why did the Ula have to sleep outside? Who is Ula? Why did Ula have to sleep outside? Why do Ula have to sleep outside? Mom is super machmir. He was machmir even on that. Like that. Sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. What? No, it's pasnish for a person stopping to yell. That's why my mother was upset. What did like, all the neighbors and everything, right? I yelled at the bacher afterward. I didn't let it just go, but a companion. Sorry? Oh, the knockers we're getting to. Let's get there. I don't know what goes on. It's because of I don't know. It's always in the summer. I wonder if there's something with the with the galaxies and stuff. I don't know. Let me say one more thing. One last thing over here. I don't know. What about setting an alarm? Tomorrow we'll start with the door knockers and the klei yucha, the rattles and all these important things and whatever. Yes, that for sure is also. That's a klei shir. That's for sure also, right? That's for sure also. Right? If you use it with the knocker, but even if you do it with your hand, that's anytime. There's no difference between that and clapping, right? Sorry? Doesn't matter klei shir. Doesn't matter. No, clapping is usher. What? Not to a rhythm. You're not allowed to clap to a rhythm with your own hands. That's for sure you're not allowed to do. Unless there's a mitzvah, unless there's a covenant Torah, whatever, I don't know, all that stuff. But stam to knock on the door, dun, 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 of course it's us. It's 100% us. Mashenke, one moment, like we said the other day. But Mashenke, to get everyone's attention, right? Ding, 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 ding. Here, I'll do it right now. Okay? To do that on Shabbos, that's mutter. That's mutter. Right? So, okay. But anyways, so I just found an interesting thing. So somebody asked me, Shiloh, this Erev Shabbos. Someone asked me, is he allowed to use his cell phone, as an alarm clock? Okay, we spoke about it in Muksa a lot of times. So I told him as long as the bars, I said you could use it, there's no problem. And I thought he was asking a Muksa Shiloh. That's what we did the whole entire last month, right? So I said that it's okay as long as you want to bring it out of the room. It's not going to wake up your wife and whatever. He told me if it wakes up his wife, he has bigger problems. He's divorced, but okay, whatever. Anyway, so he told me that if he's gonna wake up, he said is he allowed to? He wasn't asking that kasha. I thought he's asking is he allowed to take it out of the room? So it's a klishmach b'liyitzir, it's arch makayma, he's ruining the market, whatever. So he says to me, no, that wasn't my kasha b'chlal. My question is that on my phone, he said he doesn't know how to work the phone, and he only doesn't have any of the bring. The only thing he has is like a whole niggin. It's like music. So he wants to know, is he allowed to put an alarm clock and the music is going to be going? My first reaction, my first thought was, what's your first thought when you hear such a shayla? I thought he meant there's a whole halacha of Hashmas Koil. There's two Hashmas Koils. We're learning one of them now. There's a different Hashmas Koil in Synodration and Base, which is a whole Hashmas Koil about not allowed to do things. You're not allowed to have things going that are making noises, musical noises, or whatever things, all types of noises, not after musical noises, but that people are going to be chayshid you that you did something on Shabbos. The Gemara is talking about the cases of where he had a grinding mill, and there's all types of heterim. You don't have grinding mills which are making noise and loud noise in Shabbos. The whole shaila about the washing machine going, the dishwasher, all of that. Why? Because people are going to be chayshid you. This whole shaila, how do you have an air conditioning allowed to go on Shabbos? It makes a very loud noise, the air conditioning. People are going to chayshid you that you turn it on. And not only that, Bishlam, if it just goes the whole entire time straight, the air conditioning, you all know, all of a sudden you're walking, just like walking, all of a sudden, boom, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, so people are going to be chayshid. So there's all types of heterim, they say, because people know today. Not our sugi right now. So I thought that's what he's asking, So somebody's going to hear all of a sudden music go on. It's shayla v'shmaz koil. So Hashmaz koil, the halacha is like this. The Ramah says in Rishon and Beis that the halacha is on Hashmaz koil. People are going to be chayshid him that he all of a sudden turned on the music. So one heter is if you don't hear it outside the room. It's one heter. There's another heter is that the Ramah says that the makim hefsid you can be makel on a shmas kol. So I told him hefsid, you're not going to wake up for davening, and it sounds like he's divorced. He doesn't have somebody waking him up or whatever. Right? Why does anyone get married? Right? So Maisa, how's he going to wake up? It's a hefsid. He's going to miss man kriyashma. He's going to miss man tefillah. It's a hefsid gadol. So I told him it's allowed mitzad hashmas kol, and he didn't push it. He didn't know from hashmas kol. He didn't know from muksa. He said, okay. So, but there's no problem of what I'm talking about. He's obviously listening to the shiur. He says to me, there's no problem what you're talking about clapping and dancing on Shabbos. Clapping and dancing on Shabbos. What does it have to do with that? No, I just thought that it's like, you're not allowed to play guitar, so you can't have a... Is that a problem? Anybody know? So I told her, don't know, it doesn't sound to me like there's any problem. I didn't think of this as being a problem. The problem is playing the guitar, right? Because you'll come to fix it. I don't know, you're not allowed to play guitar because you'll come to fix it or whatever, right? So listen to this. The Aruch HaShulchan, and I'll finish with this, but the Aruch HaShulchan, I don't have it here, but the Aruch HaShulchan in Shin Lamed Ches and Sif Hey, the Aruch HaShulchan says, that if you have a guitar going from before Shabbos, he means not a guitar. The Olam is right. The Olam told me that they had back then record players and all these things. So you're right. You're right. In Navardic, they had it. So they had some type of a musical instrument. It says, you can't have musical instruments going from before Shabbos. Here in our Siman, Shin Lamed Ches, he says, why not? Why can't you have musical instruments going before Shabbos? He says, misvara. Right? It's about the exact same thing. Chazal were afraid you're going to play guitar, you're going to come to fix it. He says, no, and what happens if you're playing the record player and all of a sudden there's a problem? You're going to come to fix it. You're going to come to fix it. So he says, some misvara, lama likra, it's the same exact thing. So he says, you're not allowed to have music going from before Shabbos. Because then you're going to, or let's say you want to have the music go on in the middle of Shabbos. There you are. You have a bad voice. Right, and it's like always an issue. So there you'll just time it exactly 11:30. You'll get like the Rod and Boys choir, in the background. And who needs you? And you'll just pretend because your wife, she wants this mirror. She's afraid the kids are going to go off the derech and whatever, all types of stories. Right? So you go like this. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. The problem's going to be. It's like the Aruch HaShulchan, all of a sudden it's going to be, and then, it's going to be broken. And then your wife's going to chop, right? You say, it's too much challenge. You're going to tell her, what are you going to do, right? So besides the Aruch HaShulchan, you can't do that because you're going to come to fix it. I never knew this before. He says you're going to come to fix it. So it's usher. It's usher. So the Maisa, so I looked into this a little bit. And I saw one sefer, he says, because of this, you can't on Shabbos set an alarm that has a ringtone. It brings down this, I didn't know it before, it brings down this Aruch HaShulchan. The Aruch HaShulchan is Mamash Shina Siman, right? It could be, I knew it, I just didn't remember it, but the Aruch HaShulchan Taka says, he says, you can't set an alarm because, I don't know if it's the same exact thing. Yeah, that's the only thing. I don't know if it's the exact same thing. I don't know.
Why is it not like
I know, it's the exact same thing. You're gonna come to fix it, what?
You should be able to set an alarm.
Sorry?
You should be able to open set an alarm.
What do you mean?
If the alarm is broken and it doesn't go off, it's too late, right? It goes off and you have to fix it, you're off.
I want to chop, but I'm not chopping. It sounds like I want to chop. Why? Because if the alarm.
If the alarm goes off and you wake up.
No, but again, I don't know. Once already, Chazal asked her these things. I don't know if we start looking into the time of the crowd. What? I don't know.
So why is it not like a goat playing?
No, let me explain. What are you going to come to do? You're obviously going to come to turn off your alarm. That we're not afraid of, right? That has nothing to do with this, sister. Nobody here ever said that we're afraid you're going to come to. I see they're trying to tell me an answer. You guys have an answer? No? Okay. I don't know. But what do you think?
Why is it not like a goat playing the instrument?
Why is it not
Goat's
like a
not
guy?
Hilchos Shabbos.
I did it. I was because I'm not going to come to fix the guy's instrument.
You're not playing the music, right?
Okay, stop arguing the Aruch HaShulchan. Aruch HaShulchan says not like that. Okay, the Aruch HaShulchan says if you set it up beforehand, then you're going to come to fix it, and he's right. The people do it, right? Now I'm spoiled from the Aruch HaShulchan two things. It's chiddush the Aruch HaShulchan, right? It's a big chiddush. I mean, no one ever said this, right? I don't know. Nobody ever said that you're not allowed to have it going from before Shabbos. You could say because the Metzias didn't exist until Petersburg. Yeah, but then the Gzeira also didn't exist. Chazal asked her playing with a clay shear, ought to do this. The Aruch HaShulchan is a very big chiddush. He's taking the time of the Kra, he's taking the time of the Chazal's Gzeira, and he's extending it. It's a big, big vart, the Aruch HaShulchan saying. Now to go and take that and extend it to an alarm, which has music, is a much bigger extension because, and let me explain, and then again, it's very simple. The Aruch HaShulchan is a chiddush. If you accept the Aruch HaShulchan's chiddush, we'll call it the Gzeiras Aruch HaShulchan. But this is not what Chazal asked that if you think about it, right? So now, in our case, is it the same exact thing as the Aruch HaShulchan? No, probably like you're saying, Rabbi Friedman. It's not it's not what the Aruch HaShulchan is saying. If I see that Chazal asked this, I'm going to extend it and say even in something where you're not doing a Maisa, but you'll come to the lave of Chazal, so even that's not so. Okay, but over here I have neither. I'm not doing a Maisa, and I'm not going to come to fix it. So there's no Aruch HaShulchan, there's no Gemara. It's mutter. Just interesting. I never thought of it before. Okay, whoever's new should just come to me a minute. But actually, there's one thing I have to say. 1 minute. No, nobody's in trouble with the that's hot.